Former La Joya Police Chief Geovanni Hernandez could soon be released from federal custody. He faces drug trafficking charges after a months-long probe by Homeland Security investigators.
Channel 5's Leslie Aguilar joins us from the federal courthouse in McAllen with new details from a court hearing and about also Hernandez's long past in Valley law enforcement.
Right now, Hernandez is allowed to be at home with his family. A judge granted him a $100,000 bond and demanded he give up his passport, get a non-law enforcement job, and be at his house by 7 p.m. every day. Prosecutors didn't want him released at all. They say he's a flight risk because of his connections to Mexican cartels.
The charges are serious, especially for a man of the law. A criminal complaint alleges Progreso Police Sergeant Geovanni Hernandez worked with drug traffickers to earn money for his campaign for Hidalgo County Constable. At a detention hearing in court today, we learned more details. A Homeland Security Investigations special agent testified, saying interactions between their confidential informant and Hernandez are recorded. Hernandez told the informant he had a meeting set up with Gold Cartel Plaza boss El Toro before Mexican Marines killed the trafficker in April. Hernandez bragged about being close friends with El Toro and that cartel leaders in Mexico trusted him. The first trafficking operation the informant set up with investigators started at Hernandez's Weslaco home. Hernandez had his badge and gun with him when he and the informant provided security for another vehicle carrying a load of drugs. The HSI special agent testified video surveillance of that operation exists.
When that operation was finished, Hernandez demanded payment immediately. Hernandez told the informant he wanted to meet the drug trafficking bosses in person. HSI testified that Hernandez actually gave his official Progreso Police badge to the informant to show the bosses. Hernandez allegedly said that he wanted to start doing deals on a weekly basis.
The second operation started in the Progreso Police Department parking lot. HSI says Hernandez drove his marked police unit this time. Hernandez took cash payment again in the police parking lot after the job was finished.
The HSI special agent testified they had to be very careful throughout their investigation because Hernandez was suspicious about being under investigation. The special agent said that Hernandez knew law enforcement tactics and was therefore careful about saying certain incriminating words. He said Hernandez told their confidential informant to be careful about a certain drug trafficker in Mexico who Hernandez believed to be under investigation by the DEA.
Investigators served a warrant at Hernandez's home and found devices meant to detect law enforcement recording technology. If convicted of his charges, Hernandez faces a mandatory minimum of 10 years in prison.
The HSI special agent also testified that they had to be extra cautious in this case because they worried about the safety of their confidential informant. Other informants had stated that Hernandez has been involved in violent home invasions in the past. Now, as of right now, Hernandez's law enforcement license is suspended, but we pulled his record from the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, and it turns out he's worked for several departments in the Rio Grande Valley. He started out as a jailer for the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office in 1996. He later became a reserve officer for them as well. In 1997, he worked as a police officer in Progreso. In 98, he moved over to Alamo Police, then FAR in 99. After 4 years in FAR, he went back to Progreso. In 2008, he started in La Joya as an officer. He worked in Weslaco later that year. He took a 2-year break from law enforcement before joining La Villa PD in 2010. He left La Villa after a year and worked as a reserve officer in Elsa before taking the police chief position in La Joya in 2014. After he resigned as chief in La Joya, he worked as a reserve officer for Progreso, La Villa, and Los Indios. His most recent job, of course, was as a sergeant at Progreso Police. Now, Hernandez will be required to be electronically monitored during his release. You can count on Channel 5 to keep following this case. In McAllen, Leslie Aguilar, Channel 5 News at 6.